Welcome to the Floyd Memorial Library podcast, where we sit down with the people who give shape, texture, and voice to life on the North Fork of Long Island. Some are rooted here by generations, others arrived by chance or choice, but all carry with them a piece of the story. We talk about what's changing, what's worth holding on to, and the currents of history, both quiet and loud, that run through this place. I'm your host, Christopher Bianchi, and for episode 138, we sit down with Charlie Manwaring, a lifelong local, commercial fisherman and owner of the Southold Fish Market. Known for his hard work, community spirit, and deep ties to the waters of the North Fork, Charlie shares the story of how he went from working on the docks to running one of the most iconic seafood spots on Long Island. Charlie's story is rooted in the waters and working culture of the North Fork, where he's built a reputation not just for top quality seafood, but for his dedication to the local fishing community. We talk about his upbringing in Greenport, the legacy of his family, and how he came to take over the fish market. Charlie reflects on the changes in the seafood business, his connection to the baymen, and what drives his tireless work ethic managing two businesses and staying actively involved in the community causes. So I hope you enjoy episode 138 with Charlie Manwaring. This episode was recorded May 8th, 2025. Thank you so much for coming on the Floyd Memorial Library podcast today. I'm looking forward to talking with you.
Yeah, no, it's fun. I like doing local stuff.
Yeah. So just in the beginning, can you give us a brief introduction about yourself, where you were born and raised?
Okay, yeah, Charlie Manwaring, born and raised here in Greenport. I'm now 50, so I've been here for a little bit of time. So, growing up in Greenport, it's always been, Southold and Greenport. It's been, my life here.
Yeah.
I started working on the water, and then started working for a guy at a fish market, and just kind of moved up my ranks. And before I knew it, I owned the fish market. And then later in life, I ended up buying a Sophie's Rest over in Southold, which is a bar and restaurant. So, small town kid that, did it right in this town.
Yes. And then, do you know how far back you can trace your ancestry?
That I don't. We've been here forever. I mean, I'm pretty much related to half of Greenport. so if most I'm related to most out here.
Oh, okay.
So big family. Both sides of the family, big family. So it's
And you got to meet some of your grandparents?
Oh, yeah. My grandparents are still alive.
Oh, okay.
I got to meet my great-grandparent, So, I mean, on my mom's side, they were from down south. They were down from Virginia and stuff.
Yeah.
On my great-great-grandmother, she was from Italy. So, I mean, I got to meet her growing up. So, definitely 5 generations I got to know.
Yeah.
Through my life side,
What about on your dad's side? What did your grandfather do for work?
My grandfather was a bayman, so his father was a bayman. So basically, growing up in our house, we always lived on the water. I mean, it's from when I could walk, I was on a boat when my dad and my mom and dad would have me on the boat. My dad was a lobsterman, fisherman, conking. In this industry, you have to change with what's good.
Yeah.
So. And that's what he did. He switched fields every time something got good. He jumped into that next field, and that's how you do it.
Yeah.
Growing up as a kid, I always worked on the water, clamming, scalloping, crabbing. You name it, we were doing it. Fishing every day.
And did you see some of the industry change over that time?
Yeah, 100%. Regulations came in. So that's the hardest thing, and a lot of people with the fishing industry don't understand regulations. They make us change. They try to put regulations on it to, for a good cause. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not, as far as I'm concerned. they put a regulation on one species, so everybody targets the next species, and then the next species. So it's, sometimes it needs, in my book, we need regulation on all, but not as much regulation. When the fish are here, we should be able to catch them. We shouldn't not be able to catch them. That's always the one thing. They save it for the winter. For the winter boats out in the ocean, where the local guys here don't get as much of a chunk, so to speak, of fish.
But you're saying that they'll pick and choose what they want to regulate on instead of just putting it.
Now basically every species has a limit on it. I think the only thing that doesn't have a limit right now is like butterfish. Okay. You can't catch them. That's why.
Yeah.
So.
And were your parents living in Greenport or Southold?
I grew up on a farm in Cutchogue till I was like 4.
Okay.
And then we moved to Greenport when I was 4. I basically lived 5th and Wiggins for 20 years of my life, and then we moved over to Milton Road. So basically, 40 years I was in Greenport. And then I moved up. My house is in Southold now.
Okay. And what about, did your parents say, or even why they came over to Greenport at that time and what they thought of the...
It was all about fishing. Yeah, it was making my dad's life a little easier because the boats were in Greenport and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing. When we were kids, Greenport was hustling and bustling. I mean, we had, we had 2 we had 2 supermarkets. We had 2 hardware stores.
Yeah.
We had the arcade, which was our department. And you never really had to leave Greenport.
Yeah.
Because we had everything here.
And this was in like the 70s.
70s and 80s, you know. Even growing up in the 90s until, the arcade closed down and stuff. Yeah. I mean, you could always go down there and get jeans or something. Now, with everything everything goes Amazon, it's to your house. But,
I know.
20 years ago, it was a big thing to go to Riverhead.
Yeah.
I mean, it's common to go to Riverhead or Amazon,
Yeah. And then for you as a child, what activities would you do for fun outside in Greenport, or would you go fishing?
Yeah, I mean, fishing and stuff was a big part. Growing up, we always had crosstown rivalries.
Yeah.
So we'd have this side versus that side, and the line was probably about here where the library was. Yeah. So, everybody to the south, they were on one team. Everybody to the north was on another team. And we used to play football, soccer, baseball. I mean, there'd be, in St. Agnes's Field, there'd be 100 kids playing every day, playing, sports and stuff like that. And then as I grew older and started making money and stuff like that, basically I just went on the water. That was the thing. You went on the water, and not that I didn't go to school a lot, but if there was money to be made, I would definitely not be in school. I'd be.
Yeah.
Mrs. Wetmore would always be calling my parents saying, calling my parents like, Charlie's not in school. And yeah, we know he's scalloping or clamming.
He's going out making money.
He's doing something, but I used to get in a little trouble that way, but it's all good.
Would you have like hangouts like the Coronet, or was it Paradise Suites was around?
Yeah, back in the day, yeah. We used to, that was all. I mean, basically, back when I was a kid, it was Chai Chai's, Rouse's.
Oh, what was Chai Chai?
Chai Chai's was on 6th Street. It was a little deli, little corner store. When growing up, like there was a bunch of them, and we don't see that anymore. Rouse's was right over here. So they were like the little penny candy stores that we'd go in and get penny candy stores. And back when I was a kid, we traded a lot of baseball cards and football cards and sticker albums, and that was like the big thing. Every kid had sticker albums and baseball cards.
Yeah. And then I guess also you touched on school a bit, but how was your overall schooling experience going through middle school, high school? And
that was good. I wasn't an A student, but I wasn't a failing kid. I just did what I did to get through it, and that was that. I went away a couple years to college, and just it wasn't for me. And I tried becoming a cop, and then things didn't go through, and the fish market came available at the same time as I was trying to become a cop, and I had a choice. I had a little fork in the road. Which one do I do? And I chose the fish market.
But you started working there even as a teenager?
12.
At 12.
Yeah.
But how do you know the history of that that building?
Yeah.
What was
the
there?
Morrises bought it. Mr. Morris was a retired fire department FDNY guy. He came out for like a little retreat and liked it, so he started renting boats and stuff. And then he got into the fishing. Started had a little fish market. Then scallops were really heavy, so then he got into scallops and clams, and and he became a big wholesaler. It was a big wholesale spot. My dad and one of his friends ran that place for a few years, and that's kind of like I was like that little pesty kid that was always down on the dock and always running around there like a little kid. Oh, I'll do this, I'll do that, and that's how it started. I mean, later on, they sold. The Morrises ended up selling to Ace Cottrell. I worked for Ace for a couple of years, and then John and Pat Denizio and Joey Verity and Eileen Verity bought it. I worked for them for a year, and then John and Pat bought it from Eileen and Joey, and then I worked for John all through high school, part of my college, and then eventually they wanted to retire in 2000.
Okay. And then before we get more into the fish market, I was just curious because people talk about Greenport in the 70s and 80s and that it was more, people might say it was more rough around the edges.
100%.
Did you feel that even as...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, you got to remember back in the 80s, we had all the sea scallop boats in here. We had all the fishermen coming into Cooper's. It was definitely rough. I mean, I remember growing up and having packs of dogs, and when you rode your bike down the road, like everybody had a dog, but they'd all pack up together and they'd be chasing you and trying to get you on the bikes. So I mean, it was rough. I mean, you had your areas that you didn't go down. Even growing up as a kid, you knew where you could go and where you couldn't go. And then your parents be like, if they ever caught you, it wasn't even your parents that caught you. It was like your mom's friends saw you on that street, and then she'd beat you anyway because you were on that street. And that's how it was back in the day. Everybody's other parents watched out for us kids, and kind of but we were all it was never like, so to speak, like bad, but it was definitely a lot worse than it is now.
And like some abandoned houses and stuff like that.
Yeah, you had all the you had all the abandoned houses. You had to do drugs. You had all the bad stuff here. And it's changed. This whole society out here has totally changed in my lifetime quickly.
It's totally different from that time. And what about even at night on like some of the bars and stuff?
Oh, yeah.
You get a little rowdy.
Yeah, I mean, a lot rowdier. We used to have, think about it. We used to have Claudia's. We have two Kokomo's. Up where Drossel's is, that was a Stanton's nightclub. You had a lot of old places that, now that's not there. I mean, unfortunately, I never got to see Mitchell's. I was a little too young for that when it burnt. But I've seen pictures and stuff. But then when Kokomo's was there, that place was lively, going crazy. I mean, we had all kinds of play. There was bars and stuff everywhere. And back in the day, growing up, there was always, everybody had a little backyard bar too. Where you a little speakeasy where everybody would go. So I mean, it was like back in the day, everybody did anything to make money, and that was that was the thing. Growing up out here, you got to I got to see all that.
Yeah.
It was not to say it was bad, but I mean, it was neat. You think about some of the things you did when you were younger, and you're like, you'd never get away with that now. It's just like, even like, you go to a beach now, you're down the beach for 5 minutes, the cops get called. When we were kids, there'd be 200-300 kids down at a beach.
Yeah.
We'd have a bonfire. We'd do, and the cops shushed it away, but, not nowadays, it's like the minute anybody makes noise, like somebody's getting called the cops. It's not.
It's totally different.
I mean, I think back in the day, we parents took care of their own kid. Growing up too, I think we had a lot more respect too. Where a lot of the kids nowadays don't. They just throw their stuff on the ground and stuff. We'd always clean up our messes and so
that has changed.
Yeah, I mean it's you see it. It's the entitlement on some of the kids nowadays is like crazy.
Yeah. But now, so you came back to the area after college and you were working some different jobs or even at the fish market?
No, I worked on the charter boats.
Okay.
I always worked on the charter boats. I worked at the fish market. I did a little bit of masonry I did some carpentry. Just back then you did anything and anything to make money. I'd go pick shingles up from one of the roof guys on my day off, or help the mason, just to make money. I mean,
Yeah.
that was the thing. Like, growing up, I never sat still. If I could make
Yeah.
money, I was making money. So,
Yeah.
and it's just not that, like, my kids my one daughter likes to work. I got a younger daughter that I'm trying to get to like to work. So, but, it's just, I think it was bred in me to work. I mean, like my parents and my, John Denizio and Pat Denizio, they were like my parents, and they pushed us to work. I mean, they wouldn't let you have a day off, or, no, you're working, but it's school break. No, you're working, and it's, that's just how it is. Like, we never went on vacations. We just worked.
Yeah. And then, so how did the opportunity come about for you to purchase the Southold Fish Market?
The fish market was, John was starting to slow down, and he wanted to retire. So there was a lot of talk. He built a couple of houses in Maine, and they were going to move up to Maine. So it was a couple of years, hey, look, I'm getting ready to, retire, and, I want you to take it. And I was, at that time, I was like, I still wanted the police, and I was pushing for the police. And then, he got hurt. He ended up getting hurt, and up there, he cracked his hip, knocking a tree down, and it pinned him. And then I started running the shop like pretty much full time, and I was like, "Hey, this ain't that bad." So then the opportunity came to Christmas of '99, and I got it from the Christmas of '99 to New Year's was mine. He got Christmas, I got New Year's. Okay. So 2000 was the official, and I pretty much ran it for him anyway, so it wasn't like it was a big deal for me to transfer over, but. There was a learning curve. You got to understand money and how to put things away, and, how to make payments. And, it took me a little while. And then, and I took over, and I was there for, 12 years, I think, before we lost our lease. And then we moved over to the new place.
Okay. So, I guess I got that mixed up. So that it was at a different place.
Yeah, I was over on the Port of Egypt for ever. That's where the old fish market was. That was where the Morris is built and stuff. And then in 2012, I ended up building where I am now.
Okay. Was there anything in that spot before?
From where I was?
Where you are now?
Yeah, used to be Hollister's, Journey's Inn, La Plaza. It was a bar room way back when.
Okay.
And then, it turned into Hollister's, which was the Tuminellos. They had that restaurant there. He was a teacher, and the wife ran the restaurant. Oh, okay. And then after they sold, it was like Journey's. I think it was Journey's Inn or something like that. Yeah. And a couple guys had it for a couple of years, and they didn't make it. And then it sat there forever. I mean, the place sat there for probably 10 years, and then I lost my lease. And I had somebody come along and was getting a haircut and overheard one of my employees talking, and the real estate agent came to me, and boom, it was. She said, get in the car. You come and check this place out. I want to sell it to you. And, I had tried buying it earlier from the owner, and we couldn't come up with a price. And then one thing led to another. Before I knew it, that was my place.
Nice. So you were able to make that as you wanted it. And
yeah. I mean, I always had a dream of doing what I do there right now. So, yeah. So we started out, like, it was funny because, like, the cooler that I first put in, I thought was tremendous, but then we realized we blew out. We ended up blowing that out and blew it out another 10 feet. And then I ended up putting a freezer that's twice as big as the cooler. So it's just, like when you first start out, you think everything's great. And then it's like, man, I should have made that bigger. Or, I should have done this. So, but for the most part, I'm happy there. It's a great spot, great location. I can't ask, I got a great crew that works for me. So, I mean, that's the one thing at the fish market that, that's what keeps me going, is the people that work for me. And, I constantly want to do something better there. I always want to try to, do something just to make me stand out a little bit more than the rest.
And then even from starting that and opening that, how have you seen even the seafood business change through that time? And do you stay connected with local fishermen?
Yeah. Most of my fish are local. I mean, look, we got our backyard's the bay here, and we got that, and then we got the ocean. So yeah, most of my stuff comes local as much as I can get local. Have I seen differences? 100%. I'm from an era when grandma used to come in and buy the whole fish. The heads went for soup. You ate the fish with the bones. And then
now they expect you to have it all
filleted, no bones, but it's going back.
Okay.
So we're starting. So that was then. Then we went to like only fillet. Then we went to okay, we'll have some bones, like steaks and stuff. And now people are starting to eat whole fish again. And the good, you got to explain to people like you're starting to see it on all the menus out here and stuff like that. When you eat a fish with a bone in it, it's 10 times better than without the bone because the bone adds so much flavor. And most people don't realize that, but yeah, it's a pain to pick around the bones once in a while, but the flavor's there.
Yeah, definitely. I guess this came later when you bought that other property with the other restaurant in Southold.
Yeah, actually, yeah. Well, it was 2012, both of those.
Oh, okay.
That's what happened. I ended up buying Sophie's. And then my landlord's like, well, if you bought that, you should have looked for your fish market, which I never knew my fish market was in trouble. They never told me they wanted us out or nothing. So that started a whole big debacle. And then, but at the same time, I started running that other place. And, it's a lot between both places. You're constantly going back and forth and trying to make sure. And even over there, even at Sophie's, we're always trying to make it better. You're always trying to make everything better and better and better and better. So, that it's the same thing. That's kind of what drives me every day, just to see what I can do to, make something better or how, just it's weird, but that's what kind of keeps me focused,
Yeah. And just having that strong work ethic.
Yeah, I mean,
10 to 12 hour days, 2 businesses.
That's easy, 10 to 12 hours. That's 7 days a week. That's only 70, 80 hours. I'm, in the summertime, I'm 100, 120 hours a week. I mean, my day starts sometimes at 3 a.m. I don't get home till 10, 11 o'clock at night. Yeah. So, and I don't complain about it,
Yeah.
It is what it is. You just run with it and, you get your 3 or 4 hours of sleep and then next morning you go and you just do it. In the wintertime is a little different. You get time to relax and do things and kind of relax a little bit. But in the summertime, when it's go time, you got to go.
Yeah. When I drive by, I always see the Southold Fish Market is full in the summer.
Yeah, well, we try. We try to make sure. I don't want it to be empty. It's been empty all winter. It's been quiet. We had a slow winter this year, and I think a lot of, like we talked earlier with the changing out here, I think a lot of people in COVID bought housing out here. COVID actually helped me more than it didn't because people were out here. So they were buying
full time.
They were buying more fish and everything else. Now we're seeing it reversed. Everybody went back to work in the city. So now I'm seeing that Thursday afternoon rush, where people are starting to come out. Monday morning, they're leaving. So we're going back to that. And then during the week, it's quiet because all the house is empty. I mean, just on my road, I know there's like 7 houses that are empty that during COVID were full. Yeah. So it's just, it's going to be like, I hope it doesn't become like the South Fork where it just everything shuts off. But 20 years ago, that's how it used to be. After Labor Day, it was like, boom, it was like a light switch. And I don't think it'll ever change out here like that anymore because we have too much stuff going on out here as far as ag stuff. They always have a festival out here. They always do something out here. And we got like in Southold and Greenport, we have a lot of great restaurants. Yeah. So things are starting to change up that way too. People are willing to travel and come out for the weekend and go out and have a restaurant, or and I think that has a lot to do with it. Yeah. The people that came out from the city are bored now because there's nothing to do out here. I mean? So that's kind of like, I see that aspect through them too. They're like, after 9 o'clock, you can't get no food, and it's like, yeah, you're right, but people have to live, people have to live too, it's like, it's not like the city where it runs 24 hours a day,
Yeah. You feel like, I mean, there's still locals out here, but that's changed a bit. Some of them might have gotten pushed out, but you still get locals that come to.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, there's families been out here hundreds of years. I mean, we all know. I mean, the hardest thing is for the young kids to stay out here, and that's my biggest. That's my hardest thing to keep employees because the young people can't afford to live out here, and unfortunately, if they're not living with their mom or dad, or tying in with like 3 or 4 friends, it's tough. I mean, I look at the rents all the time, and I look and I'm like, it's a mortgage payment that these people are paying for rents, and it's
and it's just temporary. There's there's no future.
No, you're not putting nothing towards your pocket. So, I mean, I guess I was lucky, like I bought a house, I bought the business, I bought things at the right time, like
before.
I mean, I look all the time to try to buy another house. I have a couple apartments that employees stay in, so it's like, you have to, we have to do something out here definitely for the young kids to keep them here, and that's the one thing that, that we do need out here. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear it, but we need something out here for the young kids to stay.
Yeah.
Because we have awesome businesses out here, and we there's plenty of opportunity for a kid to do really well.
Mm-hmm.
But if they can't live out here, or they're working all day long to just pay their bills, it's not worth it.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's why you see that a lot. People move down south. Oh, I can go down there and make half the money, and I'm living pretty.
They're moving to the Carolinas or somewhere.
I mean, I have friends that done it. That lived here all their lives, and they moved down here like, Charlie, it's awesome. Like, I got to work half as much, and I have a life again.
Yeah.
A lot of kids.
But it shouldn't be that you have to. It should be that you should be able to stay where you grew up. And
yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, like, will my kids come back here? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they have the opportunity to, but I don't know if they will.
Would they want to help out with your business?
Yeah, I mean, my oldest daughter works a lot for me.
Okay.
So she's there a lot, but I want her to go off to college. She's graduating this year. I want her to go off to college and see the other things. Like, my parents didn't hold me back. They were like, hey, look, go to college. You're paying, but go see something different. And and I want that for them too. I want them to go see the other side. The fish market's always going to be there. That place is never not going to be there. Candace or somebody or Cindy or somebody will end up running it, and when I back out, because I don't, I'm going to back out eventually, because I'm getting older and I don't want to work 120 hours a week. I want to, I'll oversee it, but I don't want to, I don't want to be the everyday operation guy anymore. It's like, believe me, I love it, but it's just, there's a lot of stuff in America that I'd like to go see myself. A lot of places, and so I like to travel and see some time, work for 3 months and then go travel for 8 months. It works for me.
Yeah. And then was the restaurant added at the same time in the
fish market came first.
Fish market, and then you added the restaurant.
Yeah, later. We were so adamant in getting the fish market running, because I was running out of a trailer. I wanted to get in the building, and then like 6 months later, we ended up adding the restaurant. But at the same time, we still had all the restaurant stuff, the soups and everything being made, because we were making it at Sophie's and bringing it back to the fish market. So,
okay.
So we did have, we didn't really lose any, we were making the baked clams, we were making the stuffies, we were making the soups. We never lost, downtime that way, which was nice. But, we did take, and then now we have a monster in there. The fish market takeout is crazy, and the fish market's crazy. So it's, in the summertime, there's 30 kids running around there with their heads cut off, trying to make sure everything's, filled and going. So, it's definitely, we try to make it fun.
Yeah.
We work hard, but we play hard too. And that's the thing, like, everybody knows at the end of the day, even though we argue and bicker at each other, at the end of the day, we all come together and talk, and, we try not to let anybody leave cranky.
Yeah.
Some days they are, but they get over it by morning.
Yeah. For the menu, is that similar to, well, that was never at the other fish market where you originally were? We
had a takeout.
We did a
small. We had a very tiny takeout.
Okay.
When I go back to looking at the old fish market to this one, it was about a third of the size, and I could never do what we do now at the old place. Because one, there was no park, and two, there was, it was smaller. But now, we have a big kitchen. We have a nice sit down area, and then just the amount of cutting area that we have for all us to cut all our fish and stuff. It's and that's one thing. We cut all our fish. We don't buy pre-cut. So we're there every morning cutting our fish, cutting everything, getting everything prepped. So there, it's a lot of work before we unlock that door in the morning. We're already there 2 hours, if not more.
Wow.
Getting stuff prepped and everything, and it's just it's a lot. There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that people don't see that, we try to make pretty for everybody.
Yeah. Like when I go in, it's all nice and laid out, just fresh there. And it's like you don't see all the stuff. You
don't see the mess. And then believe me, when it's going, when we're busy and it's cutting, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And it's nice, like right now, we're starting to get all the local fish. So now you're getting you're getting the bluefish, you're getting the weak fish, you're getting fluke, flounder, it's porgies. You're getting all the local fish back, which is it's really cool. Getting them, like in the wintertime, you only have a select thing because you can only get from the big boats. But now everything's coming. And every day, you might get trapped squid, you might get trapped, porgies, you got 5 draggers that are dragging out of Matatuck. You got 1 guy out in Greenport. So, you got a variety of guys to pick from now, and it works.
Yeah.
And every morning I'm like a telemarketer on the phone. Hey, what do you got? What do you got? What do you got? Next thing you know, by 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, everything starts pouring in.
Yeah.
And, and then we go through it all, and then the next day, same thing. It's like Groundhog Day for the next 6 months.
And do you know what, or I guess even just for the business over the years or even recently, what do you think is the most popular item that people usually take home seafood
wise?
Yeah. Or a particular fish?
Locally, I'd have to say flounder and fluke, or probably codfish, your whitefish.
Yeah.
The number one probably seller is probably salmon.
Okay.
Everybody eats salmon, unfortunately,
Yeah.
But, it depends because, like, when blowfish are in season, blowfish. Peconic-based scallops are in season, we blow through scallops. The sea scallops, it changes with the seasons, depending on what people are doing, That's the hardest thing. Like, right now, you can grill, you can fry, you can bake, you could do everything. In the wintertime, you're not really grilling. So, like, the grilled stuff kind of goes by the wayside, and that's why, like, cod and flounder and fluke are more, predominant. This week we have soft shell crabs. That's going to be, for Mother's Day, that's going to be the big thing, soft shell crabs and lobsters. So that, and that's another thing, like lobsters. We're starting to get them back again, which is great. We had a few years where we lost them, and then now they're starting to come back, and we're starting to see more. So that's, hopefully that industry comes back, because that was a huge industry in the 90s. We lost them.
Know if that was moving up more towards, because even they were saying in Maine they were moving north to Canada.
A lot of stuff's moving north, but now stuff's starting to move back down.
Okay,
which is good. We're starting to see. They have like these little transmitters on some of these lobsters and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's starting to percolate back down.
Okay.
Which is good. So we'll see what happens. The sound showed a little bit of good last year. The bay here has been very good for the last 2 years. So hopefully, everything's gonna egg up and hatch out, and hopefully this stuff lives. That's the key.
And I was curious, just what do you eat? Seafood a lot during the week, and what's your favorite?
I do eat a lot of seafood. Believe it or not, I do eat a lot of seafood. I'll eat just about any seafood, depending on what it is. I personally like peconic-based scallops. I love striped bass, blowfish. Those are like my 3 staple ones that I like. But like soft shell crabs, we're gonna have probably this week. Sea scallops I always like. I eat a lot of seafood.
Yeah.
And it's the worst part about it is when I'm closed in January when we're doing all the repairs, that's when I want it the most because I'm not around it. So like I have to go buy it. It sucks when you gotta go buy seafood, or I'm like begging Billy on one of the boats. Hey, can you save me a few fluke? I want them for dinner.
Because it's like you see it all that other time of the year, and then you're like, where is it for that part?
And then it depends. I mean, if I find like a great swordfish, I'll bring it home. It's just I like seafood, and my family likes seafood. My little daughter, she loves bluefish. Yeah. Believe it or not, she loves it. I mean, she'll eat a whole fillet herself. Yeah. So that it changes. But like I'll eat bluefish. And bluefish is people are like, oh, it's fishy. And then if you cut out that dark meat, it's not really that fishy.
Yeah.
And then you do so many different things with it too.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many options you can do with it.
No, and I grew up eating a lot of seafood, but I actually grew up in New Orleans.
Oh yeah.
So we had all the shrimp and crawfish and.
I got crawfish today.
You did?
I did. I got a bag in.
Oh, I might have to come get some.
Bring you back to your home.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, but and then also, I don't know if you could talk a little bit more about Sophie's restaurant and how that's going as a restaurant.
It's good. So back in the day, Sophie was Sophie. Sophie would, if you were not local, she wouldn't deal with you. You could sit at the bar, she wouldn't even pay attention to you.
Oh,
So
really?
she was a tough Polish lady, very tough. But she had great pizza, and that was the one
Oh,
thing. So they were known for the pizzas there. And Tommy Grattan and I ended up buying it together. And the first thing she did, like she never wanted to make pepperoni pizza because of the grease. The grease would smoke up the
the
oven.
oven.
So the first thing we did when we bought the place was we made a pepperoni pizza, and then just growing up there as a kid, going with my grandfather because my grandfather used to sell fish to her.
Hmm.
So and then it was a bar, so your grandpa would take you, and you thought it was
Yeah.
cool. You're hanging out with grandpa. He was selling fish, getting pizzas to go home with. They had a pool table. She'd always yell at us kids that we were going to break the pool table. Rip the pool table. And she was tough. She was a
Yeah.
tough woman, but she had great. She had a heart of gold if she liked you,
Hmm.
but if she didn't know you, man, you'd sit there and she'd tell you, hang up. No, I'm not making pizza. Click. No, I'm not making nothing. Click.
Wow.
So, and it was,
She just ran it the way she did and didn't
she
care
she did not
if
care.
she turned off people.
She did. They lived upstairs, and she did not care if
Yeah.
when she wanted to work, she worked, and when it was that's how it was back in the day, though.
Hmm.
It's like older people that just, like she'd be doing her laundry down on the pool table or something.
Yeah.
When we were kids, it's like and then when Tommy and I took it over, we did a lot of work. It needed a lot of work, and we've changed it. And over the years, we constantly just kept doing a little bit more, a
Hmm.
little bit more, a little bit more. Now we got it to where we're happy running the way it's running, and
Hmm.
we'll stick with that for a while until something changes, and we'll have to do something. You're constantly trying to spruce up the menu. That's
Yeah.
the key. You're always trying to have great specials. You're always trying to do something to make it stand out. That's kind of what I do every day. That's what I, even at the fish market, I'm always looking for that next thing that,
Hmm.
oh, that was great. Like, all right, let's put a check next to that. We got to make sure we do that again.
Yeah.
So it's, and the girls, they're great with this on the takeout side. They come up with great ideas all the time, and
Hmm.
it's like, and they run them by me. They're like, "Hey, what do you think about this? Hey, what do you think about?" I'm like the guy that says no. So no, that wasn't good, and we ain't able doing that. But we mess around with a lot of different samples and a lot of different things to always try to make sure we have something good.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's in both places. It's
Yeah.
like you do something one time and you're like, yeah, that was all right. We won't do that again. But then there's other things that people love, and you're like, and it's things that you don't think either. You're like, I'm not sure. And next thing you know, you sell 50 of them. And you're like, wow, all right, that works. So
Yeah.
so you were like, all right, good. So you never know.
Yeah.
People are different. Everybody has their different taste buds and
Mhm.
stuff. And the bar is the bar. It's a good group. The thing about Sophie's is what I like. It could be an 85-year-old person sitting next to a 21-year-old.
Hmm.
And everybody's getting along. Everybody's talking. There's no drama. It's kind of like a whole old school, homey type of place now.
Yeah.
Everybody. Before it wasn't. Like when you walked in, if you weren't local, everybody looked at you. Now, no one knows anybody anymore.
Yeah,
Like,
it's all kind of blending in.
yes, you got your locals, you got your non-local, and all right. Sometimes you're sitting in one of the guys' seats that comes there every day, and
Mm.
he gets a little cranky, but that's all right. He gets over it after a while.
Yeah. No, that's good, and it seems like business is going well between those two and moving forward. But also, I wanted to ask, you're involved in the Southold Baymen's Association?
Yep. I'm involved in the Baymen Association, the fire department. I'm involved in a lot of different organizations, just helping out and stuff. Baymen Association, it's a small little organization. We try to do a fundraiser every year to get some money to do reseeding and stuff like that. The last couple of years we haven't, only because the funding hasn't been there. But we do a lot of the funding for ourselves, and we plant some stuff every year through the Baymen's Association.
Okay.
So problem was some of the older guys are dying off on us, and the younger guys aren't really stepping up because technically there's not a lot of young guys working on the water anymore. It's this side needs help. And, the south side is really good. Shinnecock and all that's really good with clamming and razor clamming and stuff. Over here, it's a little bit of, there's a few guys working, but not many. Most of the creeks close in the summer, not much in the bay. Whereas Shinnecock's open all summer, so those guys can clam over there. Yeah. And they can do good over there.
Yeah.
A lot of our guys kind of moved over there.
Because just better
opportunity. Yeah.
To...
There's a lot more for them to do. They can raise a clam, they can steamer, they can, catch fish in the bay. They can, there's a lot of different things. They can work on a few draggers that are over there in Shinnecock. So, so there's a lot of opportunity in the South Fork right now that way.
Mm-hmm. And then how did you get involved, or how long have you been involved with the fire department?
I'm going on like 20 years.
Oh, okay.
So I've been involved a long time, 18 to 20 years I think I've been in it.
How has that been?
It's good, good. It's good. You started, I went through the whole captain line and all that, and I won't ever be a chief or nothing because that's too much. But I mean, it's good. It's good for the community. And we're busy. We're, most people, Greenport and Southold have two busy departments. Mm-hmm. Greenport being busier because of Peconic Landing and stuff, but, it's...
The calls have gone up.
Every year. And that's the thing, even in Southold, the calls have gone up. And, it's kind of not... When you walk into someone's house and you know them, they feel refreshed that it's someone they know, or... and I think that kind of helps. It's not just somebody in a uniform. And you can help them, or and that's the thing. Like you do so much stuff, you forget how much you really do. Mm-hmm. And you're always constantly helping, or God forbid there's a fire or a car accident. You're there. I mean that's there's you sacrifice days and nights and stuff, but at the end it's worth it.
Yeah. And
community. It's all about the community out here. Yeah. You keep that going and keep the community, and that's the thing. That's one of my biggest thing, like if you ever look, I'm tied into everything. Any fundraiser. I'm always doing something somewhere. And I do it because I want to give back. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, like I give back a lot, and hopefully in return I get back, and that's what I always karma, I always feel like you do something good, you're going to get something back to you. So, and that's why I'm always doing different events and different things. Yeah.
But even with I know I've had people on from the Greenport Fire Department and even Southold, and they're saying that it's still a struggle to get younger people to join, and we wouldn't want it to be outsourced. And...
Right. Well, that's the one thing we don't. I mean, and that's the thing what I said earlier with housing. Yeah. Young kids can't live it. Like, listen, Southold has a really, really tight-knit young group right now. Mm-hmm. And when I first joined, I was like the youngest kid for like 5 or 6 years. Mm-hmm. And I went in at, I think it was 30 when I went in, I think it was. 30, 32. I was one of the younger guys, and now we have a lot of younger guys, which is nice, like they do the training, they do everything, they're tight, they're the ones that, do all the work at the calls, and so it's and Greenport has a pretty decent young group now too. Yeah. So, and we're always hurting for more, it never hurt, we take on more and more people because, everybody has to work. So you're going to miss calls. It's not good when you have a call and you banging out a three, which you need help, and you want people there on the call when we get the call. Mm-hmm. It can save someone's life, and that's important, it's the one thing, you always, what's his name had a great save on that baby, Sammy, that was awesome. Yeah. And that's the thing, that's the one thing you always remember. Mm-hmm. That's your life right there. You save someone's life or you help somebody when in need, and that's part of the fire department. That's what you do.
And I think I had just two other questions. I guess one was more. I think we touched on it a bit, but is there anything about the way Greenport or the North Fork used to be that you miss?
Just the way. Yeah, you kind of like It's changed. Definitely has changed. Back in the day, everybody knew everybody's kids. You knew everybody. Nowadays, you don't. People come and go, and that's like the one thing. It was back in the day, it was tight knit, and now it's not. Like I said earlier, my mom's friend would be beating me because I was on the wrong street. If you ever did that now, someone's gonna lawsuit you or something. So that was like always the one thing. Everybody's other parent kind of looked out for you as a kid growing up, and I don't think that's too much anymore. Everybody worries about me, and that's kind of the sad part about that. The changes are going to happen. That's just part of community, and it's going to change. We changed from a working community out here to like a kind of playland.
And more it's semi-retired. Play.
People come out here for the shopping and the restaurants and the Claudio's and this and that, and we definitely see the difference that way. I mean, years ago, I guess they came out here for that too, but it wasn't as much. And we're seeing more and more. You see all the farm stands and all the, that's what everybody used to come out here for, fish, farm stands, that. Now they're coming out to take the kids to the farm stands so they can run around for 5 hours. You know what I mean? And their mom and dad can have a beer too. So, which listen, I don't blame anybody, God bless them. If they can, if you can pull it off and make money doing stuff, I mean, that's it. I mean, that's the whole, we're all out here on the East End to make money. I mean, and be able to live here. I mean,
to survive.
Unfortunately, you have to survive. You have to make a good jing to be living out here.
And then just lastly, you mentioned housing and things like that, but what are your hopes for the future of the North Forkins community down the line? What would you hope to see?
I would love out here for some type of housing for kids, whether it's a basement apartments or, a second, over a garage apartment, just to keep our youth here. Like, there's nothing for our youth here. And, they talk about doing this, they talk about that. Yeah, okay. And it never goes anywhere. I feel if you ever come to my shop, I hire a lot of young kids, and I usually get them when they're 14, and they stay with me till 22. Because you teach them and you train them, and and that's the thing. Our youth out here is definitely our future, and if we can't provide for them, if they can't stay anywhere here, it's kind of stinks, And I mean, this whole housing thing, affordable housing, it's not going to happen out here. It's just it opens up too many cans of worms. But if we put apartments in people's basements, do them right, put apartments in basements, or put them in garages, or the second story of the house, where people can actually live. I mean that's what that's what we need out here. We need kids from 18 to 20, 18 to 30 to have a place to start a place just to live, build up, and then maybe buy their own home or something. And we don't have that here. No. I mean. And I mean, when you go to the further west, you have all the apartment complexes where you could buy a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom, and rent it. We don't have that. And that we need something like out here, somewhere out here like that. But everybody's worried about the taxes because of the people coming in with kids. And, I mean, that's another thing. We got 3 schools, and 3 schools from here to Manitowoc, and
they're kind of shrinking.
They're shrinking. The kindergarten classes are all getting smaller and smaller. I think I had 70 kids when I graduated. This year's there was 30. So that's another thing. Why are they shrinking? Because people can't afford to live here anymore. Or the working class people that have kids, they're just not here.
They're just like, well, or I'll move down south.
And that's people move down south, and it's schools are huge down there.
No, it's a challenge, and even like we've had a few like the Vineyard View, but they're limited, and there's other rules within that you have to follow. And even when I was looking out here, I was looking at Vineyard View, and I kind of was I think Sammy said the same thing, but there was you couldn't make this amount of money, so I was cut off, and I was like in the middle where I couldn't fit in that, so that was tough too. But yeah, I think something else needs to happen.
Yeah, we gotta figure out something out here for like the younger kids. I mean,
Yeah.
even the kids growing up, there's not much for them. If it wasn't for all these travel teams, baseball teams and lacrosse teams, like all these kids travel now to all over. We have no like I said earlier, we used to have crosstown rivalries.
Yeah.
You don't see that anymore. You don't see 50 kids in a field playing baseball. You don't see 50 kids playing football. They're on their Xbox, playing their games or on their phone.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing. You go through Greenport and you look, 9 times out of 10 people looking at their phone and not even looking forward.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's where our whole society has changed. Everybody's so into being right now that.
No, it's a challenge.
It is. And I always want to see this place stride out here. Like I feel this is, I was born and raised out here. I always want it to work. And it will, but I'd like something more for the kids, the younger youth out here. That's the key. They're our future, and if we keep pushing people out, then we have no future.
Yeah, and it's just if it's just catering towards one side, or we're not focusing on the youth that are coming up, it's catering towards the people that have the money and can come out here later on in their life. It's not going to be a healthy community.
No, I mean, you see it, it's just, unfortunately, that's what happens, I mean, I really, for the kids out here, it would be something great just to, do something, where people could stay here and live.
Yeah.
I mean,
definitely.
I mean, everybody knows, there's a lot of people that love it here, I mean, how could you not? You get 4 seasons. You can hunt. You can fish.
You
you
have water all the
farms.
time.
You have fish. You have everything. And that's the one thing growing up. Like you always had something to do. Growing up now, like as I'm looking back at different things, and I look through pictures and stuff. I did a lot. And like a lot of things that I did when I was a kid, they can't do anymore because there's a house there, or there's the lot that we used to play on is buildings, or I mean I bet you every yard in this town I've been through playing manhunt when we were kids. We used to play crosstown manhunt. We used to run through everybody's backyard. It's just
Now there's probably hedges and other.
Oh, there's fences, hedges. I mean, we used to dive over, all that stuff, And nowadays, it's like, someone sees you in front of the house, they're like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm walking." It's
I know.
It's like, wow, this is a little different.
Yeah. So. No, but I want to thank you so much for taking the time to come on the podcast today and share your story and
no problem.
Having this keeping this wonderful business going.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, we're going to try. I mean, I'm not going anywhere soon, so that's good.
Yeah.
So we'll be there, and we always try to get the freshest and best stuff for everybody. So hopefully, stop down.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right.
Well, I hope you enjoyed episode 138 with Charlie Manwaring. I want to thank you for listening to the Floyd Memorial Library podcast, and we'll see you next time.